stand today on the edge of a new frontier, the frontier of the 1960s, the frontier of unknown opportunities and perils.
He's been shot. Lee Oswald has been shot.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics will be able to join hands. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
Cesar Estrada Chavez became a human manifestation of what can be achieved through nonviolence. He organized thousands of individuals to attain better working conditions and equality in the workforce. Chavez was heavily influenced by the needs of society and his contemporaries during the civil rights movement, along with various events in his own life. He was a turning point in history by inspiring and bringing together a myriad of people. He continues to serve as an iconic role model. On March 31, 1927, Librado Chavez and Juana Estrada gave birth to Cesar Estrada Chavez in Yuma, Arizona. Cesar Chavez's early years were prosperous. His father worked the land and the family owned various businesses. However, as the Great Depression lingered closely, the affluent times would become distant memories.
October 29, 1929. The stock market crash has come and the Great Depression has begun.
Millions of dispossessed Americans went to California to find jobs. In California and Arizona, there was ethnic segregation in virtually every public facility. The abuse that Chavez witnessed during his youth inspirited his primary thirst for justice. As the flood of migrants from the Dust Bowl arrived looking for jobs in the 30s, life for countless families worsened. Finally, on August 29, 1937, the Chavez's family property was repossessed, forcing them to leave Arizona to work as migrant laborers. Losing his family home would be the beginning of a long chain of extremely difficult experiences Chavez would go through. Things such as receiving brutal discrimination in school, his father's perseverance in strikes, unions, and collaborative efforts would all play a major role in the latter years of his life.
He saw the injustices that migrant workers got in the fields and gave them probably all that passion to fight for them, to finally see workers in the fields get respect.
When the U.S. entered World War II in 1942, a multitude of Mexican-American workers enlisted to join the war effort. Librado was injured in a car accident that same year. Therefore, Chavez had to leave school just after the 8th grade to help the family. In the year 1943, the Chavez family moved to Delano, where there was dreadful segregation. By 1944, Chavez chose to take a stand. He violated the segregation policy of a movie theater when he sat in the whites-only section. Chavez was arrested and detained for an hour. Following his 17th birthday, Chavez joined the Navy, serving in the Pacific Fleet. He was exposed to the racism that other minority groups suffered. In 1952, Cesar met Father Donald McDonald and Fred Ross in San Jose. Father McDonald taught Chavez about Catholic involvement in activist movements and the theory of nonviolence.
It's important that Cesar Chavez always had was adamant that social change could happen through pacifism, that the power of the people, if they remain strong and collective, can change and transform the power structure of society.
Fred Ross recruited Chavez into the Community Service Organization in 1952. The CSO empowered people through voter registration drives and legal aid. During his time there, Chavez promoted civil rights relentlessly. Organizations like the CSO have laid out the blueprint of what unions have to do for workers everywhere today. In 1959, Cesar met with Robert Kennedy to discuss social issues and the rights of farm workers. Kennedy helped pass the Labor Reform Act of 1959. In 1962, Chavez left the CSO to focus on forming a new union for farm workers. Dolores Huerta shared Cesar's desire to organize farm workers and joined him. On September 30th of that year, the pair established the National Farm Workers Association. Huerta would work alongside Cesar Chavez until the end of his life. By following what he believed in, Cesar helped create an incredible leadership in Dolores Huerta, who is still active in the cause.
In 1965, the workers in the fields said, "Basta. We're fed up with all of the exploitation. We're fed up with being the worst paid workers in America. We're fed up with being exploited. We want a new life. We want a union. We want to do something for ourselves and our families." And they went on strike.
because he basically chose the most powerless, literally, the weakest, the poorest, the most disempowered, and to make that his mission in choosing to battle for the farm worker. He is saying, I am going to fight for the lowest of the low, and if they win, we all win.
On March 16, 1966, Cesar Chavez led supporters on a 300-mile march from Delano to Sacramento. The NFWA agreed to join the Filipino Union, AWOC, on September 16th. This strike would become known as the Great Delano Grape Strike. The form of organized cooperation that Chavez and his followers displayed then allowed workers to obtain quality unions at last. Later, the AWOC and the NFWA decided to merge, forming the United Farm Workers of America. Now, strikes and marches are one of the most common ways in which people demonstrate their courage to fight for something that they truly desire.
But the UFW has always been something more than a union, although it's never been dangerous if you believe in the Bill of Rights. How could we progress as a people, even if we lived in the cities, while the farm workers, men and women of our color, were condemned to a life without pride?
In an attempt at protesting against violence towards strikers, Cesar went on a 25-day fast in February of 1968. This brought along the support of many, including longtime acquaintance Robert Kennedy. 28 grape growers signed their contracts with the UFW on July 27, 1970.
It took us almost 5 years, 57 months. We won the strike, and the day that the strike was won, it was like a new life for all of us.
The Labor Relations Act was passed in May 1975, supervised by Governor Brown with input from Chavez. At the age of 61, Cesar Chavez undertook a 36-day fast to protest hazardous pesticides. Following the end of the fast, Cesar was dangerously weak and was sent to the hospital immediately.
Cesar Chavez made sure that the workers never gave up, and he did whatever he did, even if it was a hunger strike. He did what it takes to actually put meaning in all the fights he did.
On November 12, 1990, Cesar Chavez was awarded the highest civilian honor from the President of Mexico. On April 23, 1993, Chavez passed away in his sleep. The funeral took place in Delano, and more than 40,000 people walked around the funeral room. After his death, he received the Presidential Medal of Freedom from President Clinton. Cesar Chavez has been commemorated over time by various political leaders. His legacy lives on in the hearts of his family, friends, and followers. His commitment to self-sacrifice and collective movement has made a lasting impact on both agriculture and civil rights.
This is, I think, Cesar Chavez's message, is that number one, nothing is going to change unless we change it. Number two, that we have to work together to be able to make those changes, and that we have to work together in a nonviolent way and reach out to everybody to be inclusive so that we can bring justice to our world.
Chavez possessed the unique ability to organize large groups of people through humility and passion. He proved that if a common cause is established, even those in the lowest parts of the social ladder can rise above. To this day, Cesar Estrada Chavez remains one of the most important advocates of social justice.
Once social change begins, it cannot be reversed. You cannot uneducate the person who has learned to read. You cannot humiliate the person who feels pride. You cannot oppress the people who are not afraid anymore.